His boss bragged about sleeping with me, and my husband did something I never expected.
I lost my 23-year relationship in a second. He overheard his boss bragging about last night W/me. The man I had an affair with boldly bragged about our relationship on the phone, and my husband found out about it. Right now, I have lost my husband due to his foolishness. I wish I never went on that path because it has cost me a great loss. The friendship I built almost all my life is gone. My name is Eva, and I am 38 years old. I am a chef, and I own a small eatery. The name of my husband is David. David and I had been married for 8 years now, but we had known each other for over 23 years now. David is 40 years old. My husband works in estate management. The first time we met was when we were in high school. It was very much a love-hate meeting at first. I didn't like David because he was always surrounded with people. The most popular girls in school were always around him. So I never really liked that. I never really had an encounter with him in school up till one day I saw him crying after school. I didn't know what was wrong with him, and I wanted to make sure that he was okay. David opened up to me and told me that he had problems at home with his family. I felt for him because the divorce that his parents were having was taking a toll on him. I didn't know what that felt like because I had a happy home with my mother and father so in love. But that day I stayed with David and made sure he was okay before going home. From there, we became friends. He could see me in school and we could talk and have lunch together. The people in school became surprised about our sudden friendship, but I never cared to explain it to them, and neither did he. I could always invite him to my house to eat, and he liked it. I introduced him to my family and everybody loved him. Our friendship continued to grow even after school. David was the type of guy that had everyone around him because he was good looking. He had girlfriends throughout the time we were together, and I never liked them. A few months after high school, we went to the same community college, and it was then I started developing feelings for my best friend. People who saw us together could mistake us being in a relationship, but he had always brushed it off. So I kept my feelings to myself because I didn't want to lose my friendship over it. Going forward, I became jealous of the attention he gave his girlfriends. It was getting too much for me. Anytime I was trying to take my mind off him by dating other people, he could scare the guys away. We graduated from school and everyone went their own way. We never lost contact because we could see each other back home whenever he came home for the holidays. David became a good businessman and I was happy for him. A few years back, we met in our hometown for Christmas holidays when our relationship grew beyond friendship. David and I were drunk, and one thing led to another, and we slept together. In the morning, I was feeling ashamed of myself because I had thought I had let myself and him down, but David had explained to me that he had feelings for me since high school, and he thought I didn't like him that way. I told him I had liked him even before we became friends. I just didn't know how to go about it because I was the type of girl he liked. We dated for a year and we got married. Our friends and family kept saying they knew we were going to end up together because of how close we were. It was a beautiful day for us. My mom, Beth, was always in support of everything I did, and he was happy I was getting married to the love of my life. She knew right from the beginning because I always told her everything. So she wasn't surprised when we started dating. After the wedding, we moved into our new house and we started our lives. 2 years into our marriage, David got a job back in our hometown and we had to move. It was his dream to take over the estate management of our hometown, and when he was offered the job, we didn't think twice. I loved our hometown, and the job came at a time when I wanted to have my own restaurant, and it was also so good because we were going to be close to our family. We moved and we settled in quickly. I started looking for a place to set up my restaurant, and my mom helped me in finding a spot close to town. David had resumed his position and he was settling him fine. Things were moving smoothly. David and I continued to go on dates when we had time, and at the end of the date, we could always come back home and sleep in each other's arms as our dreams came through. My mother could invite us to the house for dinner, and we could talk about how we were neglecting or denying our feelings back then. It was always funny. David's parents separated a long time back, and ever since he hadn't seen his mother. His father was around for a while, but he disappeared a few years back, and ever since he had been part of my family, and my parents treated him as if he was their own son. It wasn't long I was able to set up my restaurant in town, and because I was a known chef, people were ready to start trying out my dishes. I opened the restaurant with a lot of local people there, and my business kicked off. Business was moving fine. My husband and I could eat at my restaurant and spend time together before we got back to work. David was also bringing in his clients to my restaurant to have meetings during the day, and also his colleagues usually come around for lunch and dinner. They usually praise me for being such a good chef. The friends I had when we were in school, we reconnected and we started moving together again. Most of us are married now, and we usually meet together to gossip and talk about the latest things happening in town. We went on spa dates, we went on trips together. They had always talked about how shocked they were that I married my best friend, and also because they never saw it coming. But only one of them knew my real feelings, and that was Ruth, my best friend. She was there for me anytime I could cry seeing David with other girls, and so because of that, we understood each other so well. It was really good to be back home after a while. It was a bright morning after we had rain throughout the night, and David and I were getting ready to start the day. David decided that we should get breakfast at the restaurant together. I quickly got ready and we were on our way there. I started to think about how we had settled in already and how it was time for us to have children. I knew that topic was very sensitive for David. Because of how he grew up with love from his parents, he believed he was not going to be a good father to our kids. I didn't want to press him further ever since we had that discussion because I knew it could push him away. All of my friends had children by then, and they were happy. I didn't know what to do about it, and it was eating me up slowly. During the car ride, David had noticed that my mood had changed, and he asked me what was wrong. I wanted to tell him, but I knew it could cause a lot of problems. I concluded in my mind saying I needed to speak to someone who could understand me, and I made plans to invite Ruth over to the restaurant. David and I got to the restaurant, and it was still early for the locals here. Some of my staff were already on duty, but I needed to make the food myself. I made breakfast for us, and we ate while discussing our plans for the day. David had told me that he was going to the city to sort some paperwork for the town, and that he was going to be gone for 2 days. I was already missing him at that point, but he assured me he was going to be back in time. David left for work and told me to take good care of myself. I bid him goodbye and continued with work. I looked at the time and saw that it was already very late in the afternoon, and I had not spoken with David yet. I called him and he told me he was just landing. We spoke for a while and I continued to work. I called Ruth a few hours later and she came over after work. Ruth was a lawyer. She was just always passionate about the law. It was her thing. In college, she was like the mother of the group. She had said we are either partying too much or drinking too much. She was the one that was always cool and collected. I made a late lunch for her. She always liked my cooking back then. I spoke to her over what I was going through concerning David, and she advised me to just give it time, but we had been married for a while now. I was tired of giving him time. She explained to me that if I made the decision of speaking to him and not been cautious about it, I might end up pushing him away. I understood her, and I decided to follow her advice because I knew whenever David was pushed too far, he could shut down and not talk for weeks. The last one that had happened with his parents, he went on without talking for a year. Ruth advised me to take everything easy, that I was somewhat dealing with a child. She then proceeded to cheer me up by telling me about her husband's birthday party that was coming up in a few days. I was very happy for her, and she told me I was in charge of taking care of food for the event. We talked about the guest list for some time, and she left. I began to prepare for the event already because it wasn't very far again. I had met Bill, Ruth's husband, a few years back, and he is such a sweet person, so I was happy I was doing this for them. I finished up and I had to leave because I was very tired, but I asked my staff to close up the restaurant. I got home freshened up and my husband called me. We spoke for some time and he told me his work had been extended. I was not happy about that because I wanted to attend the party with him. I told him about the party and he said I should send his regards. He won't be able to make it. A few days later, I made everything that Ruth had ordered for her husband's party, and I was at the event very early to set everything up. I went there with some of my staff and we were ready for the evening. I quickly went home to go and change for the party. It got ready and I was on my way back to the party. Before I got there, the party was in full swing. I joined them. I looked for Ruth and Bill and I saw them together. I wished Bill a happy birthday and he thanked me for finding time for Carter for the event. I was speaking with Ruth and her husband when I saw someone I thought I was never going to see again. I saw Maxwell, my first boyfriend in high school. I was shocked, and when he came over to greet Bill, I was speechless. I looked at Ruth and she had this apologetic eyes. Maxwell was my first in everything. He tried his much possible best for me to get over David, but it never worked. I used him to make David jealous back then, and it didn't work because David never looked my way. When I finally broke it up with him, he was very devastated. He blamed me for using him and for throwing his love away. He had blamed David back then after the breakup, but I don't think David knew anything about Maxwell. Since then, I haven't seen him, and I kind of still blamed myself for everything that happened, and I never got the chance to apologize to him. After he finished talking to Bill and Ruth, he turned to me and refused to acknowledge me. I excused myself and I went to the restroom. I felt like everything from last time was coming to crash down on me. I went back to the party and I tried to speak with him, but he ignored me. I just wanted to apologize for what I did back then. I was about to leave the party when I saw Ruth running up to me. She explained that she didn't know Maxwell was going to be around, that he just got a new job in town and that was all she knew. I told her to forget about it and not to bother because I already saw she was already worked up. I told her to enjoy the party and we could see later in the week. I got home and I went straight to bed. I left the party because I knew my staff would take care of things. David called me and we talked on the phone. I didn't tell him about Maxwell because I knew there wasn't anything to tell. He told me he was coming back the following day and I looked forward to seeing him. I slept off thinking and praying that David and Maxwell's path do not cross in this small town. Because I do not want any trouble, but I had it in mind that I needed to apologize to him as soon as possible. It's been a few days and David had returned. He went to the office and he was informed that his boss was transferred to another state and she had been replaced by another person. David told me he hadn't seen his new boss and he was hoping the new boss should be someone that saw how much passion he had for his community. David and I got ready and he drove me to the restaurant. He quickly left, saying today was the day his new boss was resuming and he needed to be there on time. We said our goodbyes and he left. I got to work and we began serving our customers. The local people in my community are very lovely. They often have nice reviews about my food and some of them bring fresh veggies for me once in a while. This was what I loved about this town. I was arranging orders in the kitchen when one of my waitresses came and said that a customer wanted to thank me in person. I initially thought it was one of my very good customers, but when I got outside, it was no other person than Maxwell. He told me he had not really enjoyed the meal and he had a bad experience eating at my place. At that time, I knew he was trying to get to me, and I didn't give him the satisfaction. I told him we were sorry and we could improve on our services. He left the restaurant and I felt a sigh of relief because he had become more intimidating. I got back to work and I started thinking, is this how things are going to be now? With Maxwell making life uncomfortable for me, he didn't even give me any chance to explain things to him. He was just cold. I finished my work for the day and I went to see my parents. I got home and I saw that my dad had gone on a business trip. My mom and I chatted for a while and she told me about how she had saw Maxwell in town. I explained everything to her and she said I should apologize to him and move on, and I shouldn't hang it over my head forever. She also advised I tell David everything that happened, and I made plans to tell him everything that evening. I said my goodbyes to my mom and I went home to make dinner for David. I finished up dinner and he came in from work. He freshened up and I asked him about his new boss because he was awfully quiet about it. He told me his new boss was a man named Maxwell and he was making things difficult for him at the office. David felt like his boss didn't like him because of the way he had treated him. I was very devastated when I found out that his boss was Maxwell of all people. I didn't know what to do and I couldn't tell him then that I had a history with his boss that could complicate things the most. I knew David was very troubled because he wanted to make the first impression with his boss, and he didn't know what he had done for him to have treated him harshly. I decided I could go and see Maxwell and give him a piece of my mind because he was just being childish over nothing. The next day, I met up with Ruth and I told her what was going on. I was very angry and I told her I was going to confront Maxwell about it. She told me it wasn't a good idea, but I knew I wanted to do it because he was punishing my husband for something he didn't do. Since I was trying to reach him and it was difficult, I decided that Ruth should be the one to set us up so that I could talk to him. Ruth was feeling reluctant at first, but I convinced her it was for my peace and I needed to apologize to him so he could leave my husband alone. She called him and he agreed to meet up with Ruth. So I went to the restaurant in the middle of the town. I waited for a few minutes before he came. He tried to leave, but I was able to convince him to listen to me. I apologized severally and he told me I was a bad person for using him the way I did. He told me what I did had messed with his head for a long time. I told him he should tell me how I could help him move forward. He said I should go on 3 dates with him. I told him if I did, was he going to leave my husband alone and give him the flowers he deserved in regards to their work, and he agreed. I left there feeling like I had won and everything was going to be all right, but I didn't know I was going ahead of myself and that Maxwell had a lot of tricks up his sleeves. I went home and I told Ruth that I was able to convince Maxwell to let everything go, and she said she wasn't sure it was going to be possible, that she didn't believe he had forgiven me without any catch. I told her the catch was that I was to go on 3 dates with him, and that didn't sit well with Ruth, and I got where she was coming from. I was a married woman who was about to go on a date with my ex that sounded very bad. I went on the date with Maxwell, and he kept making me feel bad about what I did. He kept bringing up the past, and each day I was feeling so guilty sleeping next to my husband, knowing fully well I had just had dinner with another man. I asked David about how things were in the office, and he said that his boss was beginning to warm up to him, and he was happy that at least my efforts were not a waste. I was finally on the last date with Maxwell, and I was happy at least I was going to have my life back now. But I didn't know that Maxwell was going to be sneaky. He told me that the last date was going to be at his house, and I was the one that was going to make the food. I got to his house very early in the evening in order for me to prepare for the dinner. I made food and we had dinner together. I was about to leave when Maxwell pleaded with me to have drinks with him for the very last time. I didn't know he was trying to get me drunk. After a few minutes, I didn't know what I was doing again, and I ended up in bed with Maxwell. In the morning, I woke up with the worst headache ever, and when I was aware of where I was, I found out I was in bed with Maxwell. Everything from the previous day came crashing down on me. I began to cry, and Maxwell tried to stop me from crying, but I did not hear any of it. He promised me he could not mention anything that happened to my husband if I didn't. I was grateful because I knew that could end my marriage. I went back home and I somehow found an excuse for my husband, and he believed me. I couldn't tell anyone what had happened because nobody could believe me. I didn't have feelings for him. David left for work, and I was relieved that Maxwell wasn't going to mention what had happened to my husband, but I was very wrong. David got back from work and he was looking defeated, and I knew I was finished. He told me I should explain to him why his boss was bragging about sleeping with me last night to his colleagues, and I fell down to my feet and started crying. I explained to him how it all started when we were in high school and how I used him to make you jealous, and also how he had appeared weeks ago and was making things difficult for you because of the things I did to him. But David was not understanding where I was coming from. He left the house angrily, and I haven't seen him in a while. My marriage was officially over. Update. Hi, everyone. I'm quite sad to say that my stupid mistake eventually led to the end of my marriage. I trusted my ex in keeping a secret, and my marriage ended. Now me and my husband have gotten a divorce due to the revenge my ex took on me because of what I did years back. I wish I never let my husband down, but I was only trying to protect our marriage, not knowing my ex was out to get me. Right now, it's just my family and my friends that are helping me pick up the pieces of my life. Regret is an understatement in my life right now. I can't believe it. It's just hard to believe it. I know I should have thought of the consequences and outcomes of the abomination that I had done. I was too cooped up in a bubble of loneliness and hunger to find happiness. My happiness was no longer in my marriage. The spark was no longer there. My husband also had an input on why I had resorted to finding happiness outside our marriage. I know I shouldn't have gone outside my marriage and broken my vows. But what do you think I should have done? If you were no longer happy in your marriage yet still loved your partner and held them in high regards, what would you have done to find your happiness? I have seen my husband angry, sad, furious, and happy, but I had never seen the monster that he had become. How can you claim to love someone and ruin their lives after finding out that they had an affair? I'm not justifying what I did as a good thing, and no one should ever go outside their marriage and break their vows they had made in front of the Lord and their guests. But why not just divorce them and let them be? I still think my husband took a very merciless decision. It's really, and I don't know what to do anymore. Please help me. My name is Kim, female, 29, and my husband is Jordan, male, 31. My husband is a very loving, understanding, and a very romantic person. He always makes sure to show genuine love to those he holds dear in his heart. I was one of those he held dear in his heart. When Jordan was growing, he had a condition called intermittent explosive disorder, IED, which is a mental health condition marked by frequent impulsive anger outbursts or aggression. Well, I didn't know that up until we got married, when his colleague came to hug me and kissed my hand on our wedding day. He became so furious to a point that he actually wanted to just eat the poor guy alive. He busted on the guy and ended up being physical with him. I didn't understand why he would do that because the guy didn't do anything wrong. I tried to stop him, but it was like he was in his own dimension and he didn't want to be stopped. I was so embarrassed and heartbroken about what he did to a point that I left the venue and went home. I started being scared of him. I couldn't even look at him or even try to be near him after the predicament that had taken place on our wedding day. Few days later, as I was avoiding him, he asked to speak to me. That was when he told me about his condition and that it had started when he was 6 years old, when he had to experience seeing his mother getting physically abused by his stepdad, who would also get physical with him. He grew up with that anger. He told me that his condition would only last for about 30 minutes, or when the rage goes down or gets satisfied. His childhood story was depressing, heartbreaking, and sad, but that didn't mean he should act like a monster to people whenever he felt threatened. So I vowed to help him, or get him help, so he would at least be able to control his condition even in tough situations. I knew that it wasn't going to be easy to convince to get help or speak to someone about it, but trying never hurt anyone, right? As his wife, I had to put my fears aside and find a way to help my husband in every way possible. So I tried talking to him about getting him a therapist, so we would get to the bottom of everything, so he would be able to control the anger he had. He declined my plea at first, but I convinced him and even threw a few threats before he gave in and agreed to get help. My love for Jordan was a bliss. I knew I was secured with him. I didn't even need to ask because even a small child would see the love we had for each other. He made sure to always hold me in high regards, spoil me, and everything. You know when they say, I respect even the soil that she steps on, that was Jordan with me. He respected me to a point that even today I still regret ever going outside our marriage to get what I didn't have, which was happiness. Well, Jordan and I met in the library. I was a librarian, and he was there to get some books. It's really strange and undefined how we actually fell in love with each other. I mean, Jordan was a way different person compared to how I was and how I am. I am talkative, hyper. I love going out exploring new places and meeting new people, while Jordan is a down-to-earth human being. He is an introvert. He doesn't like crowded places nor exploring. Even if we were talking, you wouldn't hear him say more than 3 words, especially if we were around people or during family gatherings. So he came back to the library the following day and he had bought me lunch. Mind you, that time no one is allowed to enter the library with food or beverages. I don't know how he convinced the security guard to enter, but he did, and he came to my desk and said, I brought you lunch, I hope you don't mind. I appreciated his kind gesture, but at the back of my head, I was laughing. I wondered how this weird guy approached a girl like me. Days passed, and I kept thinking about the weird guy who brought me lunch at work. As I was thinking about him, I couldn't help but laugh at how he approached me. So one day he came to the library again and randomly asked to take me out during my lunchtime. I don't know what made me agree to his invitation, but I did, and I didn't even regret it. He was so shy to a point that he couldn't even maintain eye contact. He looked so innocent, but there was this darkness in his eyes. During our date, I noticed that he was a person who would react fast to some things, like when the glass breaks or someone shouts. He would get palpitations and find himself holding on a glass he was drinking with, or a butter knife hard, like he was controlling his disorder to not react. Besides the things that had happened at the restaurant he had taken me to, I actually enjoyed his company. He has a great and sharp mind. One would swear that he had some sort of university qualification, but he didn't. He is naturally smart, and him being an entrepreneur made him look like he is very educated, but he dropped out in high school. A few weeks later, we started dating. We were inseparable. I don't know why I was so attached to him because we were 2 different people, but I was very much attracted to him. You know when you really or deeply love a person, every time when you see them or think of them, your heart skips a bit. Not to mention when they touch you or talk to you, there are those butterfly things that always tingle you in your stomach and somehow find yourself blushing. That's what was happening to me. He had all the right words to say to make me melt, and I fell for him every minute. We dated for some time, then he proposed in the most romantic way. Well, I found it romantic. and I liked the fact that there were no people and he didn't go through too much trouble. He only made dinner and lit candles with some petals. I loved it, and I said yes. As much as Jordan and I were different, but in our hearts we were the same and more. We loved each other, and that was enough for us. Yes, some people judged our relationship, asking how an extrovert gets married to an introvert, but we knew that people would always be people. They always have something to talk about, so we focused on ourselves and our growth. We got married, and that event where he attacked the guy for kissing my hand happened. We spoke about it, and he told me the whole story about his childhood, which was something he didn't want to share during our dating phase. He shared a lot about him that I didn't even know. I would ask about his past and parents. He would only tell me that his parents had passed on and nothing more. We were married for 3 years, and things started changing. When I say changing, I don't mean in a good way, but in the worst way possible. I started realizing that Jordan and I were way too different than I had thought. He was what I love, but not what made me happy. I started realizing that I had contributed so much in our relationship and forgot about my own happiness and self-worth. Jordan is a workaholic. He is always serious, working, going out to eat, romantic dinners, and spending a lot of money on me like I was selling. I didn't like all of that. I loved him, yes, but I was not happy. No matter how much he had tried to make me happy, but he was failing dismally. I had once tried to introduce him to clubs and exploration, but he just got bored, and it was like I was alone in the whole thing. We had tried a few therapists regarding his condition, but we found out that it wasn't really curable. You can only get a diagnosis or medication for it only. The only way to control it was to talk to a psychotherapist or find something that you would take out all your frustrations and anger on, like hitting the wall or going to the gym or buying a punching bag. I didn't think Jordan needed all that. We didn't need all that. The only thing we needed was for him to be healed and stop this condition forever. In this marriage, I felt like I was trapped in a relationship or marriage that has full of love but unfulfilling. I love being intimate, exploring new styles and positions, but Jordan was always all about the simple and straightforward intimate moments. He would sometimes give up while I would still be enjoying the moment and begging for more. He would just tell me that he was tired, which came to me as a huge bummer. So I would end up satisfying myself with some toys which I didn't want. Our marriage became so dull, like we were old people who have joint and muscle problems. Jordan, being a self-employed architect and a trader, he had a little to no time to even spend with me. I had noticed that when I took a 2-month leave off work, even during the weekend when we were supposed to be spending time together. He would always make excuses about being busy with the client's building plan that he was drawing. I knew that he would only trade during the weekdays because the market only works during business days and not on weekends besides Bitcoin, which runs for the whole 7 days of the week. Over time, I started seeking excitement and validation. I wanted to feel happy for once since my husband was not doing the job. I tried going out a few times, even tried taking Jordan to explore a few countries, but it was like I was the only one on the trip because he was stuck on his work. The only time he would actually give me his attention was during dinner, or we were not indoors. So at work, there is this coworker of mine who always tried luck on me, but since I was married, I couldn't give him a chance. My coworker and I were like a combo that communicated so well. We had the same personalities, same interests and desires. One day there was a year-end party for all the employees at work. The guy was there, and he invited me to go with him to an annual music festival that was taking place in New Orleans. I wanted to decline his offer, but I thought about my boring marriage life, so I went with him. We had so much fun, we danced and drank. I felt like I was where I was made to be. The conversation between me and the guy was flowing. No one was forcing anything. The connection and the spark was there. As the night proceeded, I found myself entangled in a passionate affair with my coworker named Jason, male, 28. Though he was a bit younger than me, he made me feel alive. He didn't have to try hard to know what I needed in order to be happy. I felt like he just knew what I needed without me even saying a single word. Well, our affair started that night when we went to the festival. On that night, a lot had happened. All I can remember is that one minute we were drinking and dancing, well, more like jamming to the soulful music that was playing. The next minute, we felt each other's heartbeats. I felt like I had finally found what I had been looking and longing for. I loved Jordan a lot, and I knew that he also loved me too much. But love alone is never enough when there's no happiness in it. I respected my marriage and loved the way Jordan was loving me, and holding me in high regards. But that was not enough. I felt like there was something amiss, and I had found it through Jason. He, Jason, was what I had always been praying for, what my soul had yearned for, and finally the universe had answered my heart and soul desires. I knew that if Jordan was to find out about the affair, he would be broken, and maybe worse than that. That man really loved me, that's all I can say. In my marriage, I felt alone and neglected. My needs were not met. So the affair that I had with Jason provided me with a temporary reprieve from my marital dissatisfaction. I believed that by indulging in this forbidden passion, I could or would awaken something in my husband Jordan and break through his nonchalant demeanor. Jason was explosive, like I was both in traveling and intimately. We were intimately connected, and I loved and enjoyed every moment that we had shared. He knew how to explore my body and make me find myself speaking a foreign language. My affair with Jason went on for some months, I think 8 to 9 months if I'm not mistaken. We almost dated for the whole year, but the universe and God had other thoughts about the affair. Jordan found out about the affair, and it didn't go well to a point that even today I am still feeling the wrath of my own medicine. When Jordan found out about the affair, I didn't think twice. I ended the affair with Jason even though it was too late and the damage had already been done. If there was someone to blame in all of this drama, that person would be me. I failed to stay loyal and faithful to my husband like I had said on my wedding vows. I wanted more than what God and the universe had blessed me with and went against my oath to love, cherish, be faithful and loyal to my husband through sickness and in health. I craved what my husband didn't give me, and I failed to hold and ignore the temptations. Instead, I fell for it. When Jordan discovered the truth about my infidelity, he was devastated. His trust in me shattered, and I know he felt betrayed and humiliated. By the way, Jordan found out about the affair when one sunny weekend afternoon, we were spending time together after a very long time. I was happy to see that he was changing and becoming the man that I had fallen in love with, but intimately I still needed Jason for my satisfactions. That day, when Jordan and I were chilling in, watching Netflix while reminiscing about our first date and looking at our pictures and videos, I accidentally, I say accidentally because I have been keeping my phone to myself, making sure that Jordan doesn't get to it, left my phone on top of the coffee table and went to take a bath since Jordan and I had planned to have our dinner out. So Jason called while I was still bathing and preparing for the dinner date with my husband, and Jordan answered my phone. So when I went back to the lounge to get my phone, I found Jordan looking at it, well more like going through it. When I got closer, I discovered that he was reading my text messages with Jason. I asked him what he was looking at, and I needed my phone. The only thing he said to me was, "Is this what you always do when you go to work? You sleep with your coworkers?" His question caught me off guard, and when I looked at him, I saw that he was trying by all means to control his rage, but he was highly enraged because there were veins coming out of his forehead. I tried explaining to him, more like trying to lie about my affair, but he couldn't hear any of it. Instead, his anger kept escalating up until he couldn't keep it in anymore. He couldn't control it. So he just took my phone with him and stormed out of the house. I was super scared. I didn't know what to expect with Jordan because of his intermittent explosive disorder, IED condition. You can't guarantee what you can expect from him. We had tried for so long to make him be able to control it, and he had been doing a very great job at it. But within a blink of an eye, I am the one who brought it back in full force. As much as Jordan's disorder was worrying me, especially since he had stormed out of the house, but what terrified me the most were the pictures that I had been sending to Jason. Jason and I were exchanging sexy pictures of ourselves, including the intimate pictures that we had taken when we were in our moments. I didn't know if Jordan had seen the pictures, but obviously he had, and I didn't want to see his reaction to them. I had never sent my own husband those kinds of pictures, but I was able to send them to my coworker. So I remained in the house until he came back, of which he came back right after midnight. Mind you, I had started being worried about him, thinking that maybe he had done something to himself or something had happened to him, only to find out that he was okay and not even drunk or anything. The following couple of days were really tough on me because Jordan hadn't given my phone back. He was back to his normal self like nothing had happened. Though I tried to be normal and move on like he was, but I was unsettled. That time I couldn't even ask him about my phone because I didn't know what or how his reaction would be, so I just let him be. It was very unusual for Jordan to just be quiet and not do anything. I smelled something fishy with him. I told myself to wait for the worst and not relax until I got my phone back. 1 week later, I managed to get myself a banner phone to call Jason to check if he was okay. I was worried that maybe Jordan would have done something to him, and I found out that he was fine, which came as a huge relief to me. Little did I know that the worst was yet to come. So when I got to work, I was called by my boss and I got fired on the spot, along with Jason, because we had gone against the job's code of conduct. As I was still shuttered like that, one of my colleagues, who was also my friend, came to me and showed me the worst thing that would ruin someone's life. My pictures alone with Jason's were all over the internet. I couldn't believe it, and I knew that only one person couldn't actually do that, because he was the one who had seen the pictures and he had been acting weird and strange. To think that was the least he had done. He continued by closing all my bank accounts. Well, not closing, but more like took all my savings and every cent that was in my accounts. I was so depressed, my life had taken a very huge and worst turn ever. I tried calling Jordan using my banner phone, but he didn't answer my call. I found myself calling Jason, and he bluntly told me to never contact him again, and he wanted nothing to do with me. As if that wasn't enough, days later I received divorce papers stating that Jordan was filing for a divorce, and I will be leaving my marriage with nothing but my clothes. I had no money, no job, I had nothing. I tried reporting the picture case to the police department, but I didn't get any help. Instead I got, "That's what you get for going against your wedding vows and acting like a hook," as if that was not shattering enough. It was heartbreaking. I literally and officially had nothing under my name. The house that we had both contributed to, Jordan took it. There was or is no one to blame. Everything that is happening to me is the result of selfishness and greed. I wanted more than what I already had, and desired for an outside experience, and left my husband in the house to get out to another man's house to satisfy my dark desires. I should have stayed and held on to my husband, or at least get him help at the men's clinic. Guys, I really don't know what to do. I know that I had been in my mom's house for too long. Yes, I had gone back home. Chickens were back home to roost. Please tell me how to deal with this. How do I recover from everything, because I have opened new bank accounts, and that is the only thing that I have managed to do. I tried applying for jobs, but the pictures that were on the internet made me lose all the opportunities that I was getting. I just can't take it anymore. It's hard and I need a break from everything. Please advise me. How do I clean my image and reputation? Yes, I can't take back what has happened, but I want some change. I am tired of living like this. I am slowly sinking into depression. Please, any advice is acceptable. The only thing I won't accept is judgments.